Good morning. My name is Bond. James Bond. No, I'm kidding. It's not. I'm Dale Wade, and I'm happy to announce that I am co-leader of the Education Programming Committee, along with my betrothed. And Becky, she couldn't be here today. She's recovering from surgery, but she'll be okay. I guess. I don't know. The dog's with her, so I think she's okay. Everyone have a ticket for the door prize? We've got French doors that we're giving away and a couple of swinging doors. Okay, can you tell I'm stalling? Andy Rathbone has been a Smith County Master Gardener since 2004. She has learned to garden 3 times. First in St. Louis, then in Dallas, and once again after she moved to Smith County. She is past president of the Smith County Master Gardeners Association and is the administrator of the organization's Facebook. I'm pretty sure she's a master gardener. The way we tell is if she keeps a decorative compost container on her kitchen counter, if she prefers to shop at Hughes Plant Farm rather than a clothing store, and if she plans her vacations to arboretums and public gardens.
And I have done that.
There you go. I don't know if any of that's true except for the last one she just admitted to. I present to you a true master gardener, Andy Rathbone.
So it's nice to see you all out here on this sunny but very chilly day. This is our yo-yo weather time. So, you know, it's cold now. Next week it's going to be 80. Who knows what it will be next weekend. But it's a nice day today if it's a little chilly. And we want to welcome you to the Smith County Master Gardener Lecture Series at the library. And this is the second in the series. And the next 3 in March, Elizabeth Waldrop, who's our current president, is going to be talking about physic gardens. And if you don't know what a physic garden is, it's an herb garden. And it can be either used to heal people, or if you don't like people, remember Lucretia Borgia? So she, you know, we can take care of her too. So she's going to talk about physics gardens. In April, our Master Gardener Katie Barone is going to talk about no-till gardens for small places. And then in May, we're going to have a really special speaker. It's going to be Dr. Creech from SFA. And he really, I think maybe he started the Arboretum there. I'm not quite sure, but he's going to talk about Japanese maples, and he knows everything about them, as well as azaleas and... What is going on here? Okay, azaleas and camellias and Japanese maples. So we're going to have a really good next 3 programs. Today we're going to talk about what we can do now to make sure that our gardens look great in what I think of as our prime gardening season, which is April, May, and June. I think that's when our gardens really look the best. So, like Dale said, I'm not from East Texas. I grew up in Illinois. I learned how to garden in Missouri. And when I was gardening in Missouri, what you do in the winter is I finished planting my tulips about Veterans Day. I rake all my leaves onto the beds and go to sleep. I'll see you in the spring. And then I wouldn't have to do anything until around St. Patrick's Day. These guys would come up from the boot heel of Missouri, way down in southern Missouri, and they would have panel trucks full of hardwood mulch. And they'd go door to door and sell them, and sell it. And it was great because they'd sell hardwood mulch for $12 a yard. So they would dump 10 yards of mulch in my backyard every year. And it was wonderful. And that's when I knew that I really had to start getting busy. But here in Texas, we garden 12 months a year. Now that's good news and it's bad. But sometimes you go, man, I just like to take a vacay from all of this. But we can't because there's always something to do. So let's talk about what we can do to get our gardens going. First, I want to tell you about what you shouldn't do. One of the things that I always did, which is a mistake, was I would go out in the fall and I'd cut back all the perennials. I just cut them all back to the ground, and then, you put your mulch down and then you asleep for the winter. But we have very beneficial insects that overwinter in the stems of our perennials, especially like the solitary bees that are native to Texas. So be a lazy gardener, do not cut down your perennials until after our last frost day. The other thing is you'll probably notice that as soon as we have a nice warm day or a couple of days in Tyler, it's like the daffodils bloom at Mrs. Lee's, the racks of tomatoes and cucumbers and squash, they all bloom at Lowe's. And you really, this is a case of a fool and his money will soon be parted if you buy these plants. And do not have like a greenhouse to grow them in. Because we are going to have more freezes. Our last average frost date is March 15th. But we always have freezes after that. I remember one year, the first weekend of Azalea Trails, we had a snowstorm. And so Grandma says, wait until Easter. And then after Easter passes, then it's pretty safe to plant those tender plants out there. It's the same thing when I lived in Missouri, you waited till Mother's Day. So we're a little farther south, so it doesn't take so long. So don't buy those maters at Lowe's yet. Now, one of the important things to do is, especially if it's a nasty day, like if it's an ice storm day or a cold rainy day, this is a great time to plan. Just like, you can't just build a house without architectural plans to tell you where your plumbing and electric go. You really need to have a nice plan if you want to have a really good garden. And the first thing to think about is, where is my garden? You're going to be in the front yard, are you going to be in the backyard, do you have a side garden? And then what goes on there? Because your garden shouldn't be at war with your family. You should take what your family's needs are in consideration. For example, if you've got young children, do you have a swing set, a jungle gym, a trampoline, where your garden's going to be? Well, this is not a place to put your tender plants, because those kids are just going to be jumping all over the place and your plants won't survive. And so, just plant those things someplace else, and don't be yelling at your kids all the time. If you've got pets, I've always had dogs, and my dogs always ran the fence line. And they ran up and down the fence line, and they barked at people next door, and they barked at the things in the alley, and they barked at the UPS truck, and they just had a gale time. And where they ran, nothing would ever grow, ever. And so I just make a path there. Don't plant them. Just let the dogs run. The dogs are happy, you're happy, the plants are happy. And also, again, if you're going to use areas in your garden for entertainment, think about where you're going to put, where you're going to cook, where you're going to have people, where are they going to sit, and don't put things that are prickly near where you're going to have your desk, because that's also rude if they're running into the rose bush all the time. Think about your also your environment. What kind of soil do you have? Do you have the sandy soil that's really easy to work with, but all your nutrients drain out immediately? Or do you have that lovely red clay that we have here in East Texas? And that holds your nutrients, but it's also a little challenge to work with. Do you have sun or shade? That's going to determine what kind of plants you can put in. And sometimes your sun or shade changes, like if you have an ice storm and all of a sudden you have to cut down trees and your shade becomes sun. So there might be some of you that are familiar with that from this past one or the one 2 years ago. And then you have to just plant all over again. And then do you have wet areas or dry areas in your yard? And there are plants that like it wet, like Louisiana iris love to have little damp feet, or do you have like really dry areas? And there's plants that are very drought tolerant that would like those dry areas and don't like wet areas. And then I don't want to insult anyone who's on an HOA board, but I call it the dreaded HOA. HOAs can be really beneficial for a neighborhood, or they can become like little dictators. And, if you've got landscape restrictions in your HOA, it can become a real problem if you're a gardener. Especially like if you want to, I'm looking at Jim, I'm looking at you. If you want to do native plants, it can be a real problem with HOA restrictions because they regard those as weeds. So, if I was moving, I would read the HOA regulations before I moved, because it might determine where I didn't want to live, depending on how I wanted to garden. But if you're already there, know your HOA. If you want to do something that skirts the regulations or actually is against the regulations, talk to the board before you do something. Because usually you can give them the benefits of what you're trying to do. And I mean, my gardens were mostly in front of my house. And nobody complained about it. In fact, everyone really said, oh, I just love walking by your house and looking at all your flowers and blah, 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 blah. But it's much easier to deal with somebody before you dig in the dirt than to start a huge fight. And the HOA fights are legend. So once we've planned, we also have to deal with garden map. Now, if you've got kids in high school, and they might go why do I have to take geometry? What good is it going to be? What good is it? What use is it? Why do I have to do this? Well, because you're going to have to figure out how much mulch you need. And that you need to figure out the volume. You need your volume, your garden map, your volume is length times width times depth. And so, if I had a bed that was 10 feet wide, 10 feet long, 4 feet wide, and I wanted to put down 6 inches of mulch, it would be 10 times 4 times 0.5. And that would tell you how many cubic feet you need of mulch. And then if you're going to buy in bulk, a cubic yard is 27 cubic feet. It's 3 by 3 by 3. If you've got a circular bed, that's the radius times pi, which is 3.14. And if you're like a math person, you can probably string it out. My husband could go 75 inches. That was his little parlor thing. And then if you have a triangular bed, it's the base times the height divided by 2. So just for example, if you have 100 square feet and you want to put down 4 mulch in the depth of 4 inches, that's 8 cubic yards of mulch. So that's a lot of mulch. And this is a plug, this is a plug for you. If you want to have bulbs that look like Mrs. Lee's, and by the way, it's the perfect time if you haven't ever been up there, it's the perfect time to go. If you have a bed that's 100 square feet and you want to look at your bulbs to look like they do in a catalog, and you're going to plant them 4 inches apart, that's 900 bulbs. So save your money for October. They come and spend it with us. Okay, so now it's time. Now we've done our planning. It's time to get outside. So the most important thing you can do for your soil, and your soil is your foundation for your garden. This is if you don't take care of your soil, your garden's not going to be good. So get a soil test. You know, this is this is a mantra from Master Gardeners. Get a soil test, get a soil test, get a soil test. And this is a good time to do it because they're not super busy down at A&M. In the spring and in the summer, those soil testing bags are just flying out of the extension office. So now is the perfect time to get your soil test. Get it. When you get the results, read them, follow them. If you don't understand what they say, you can bring them in to the help desk. We'll help you read the test results and tell you what you need to do. With or without a soil test, the best thing you can do for your soil is to add organic matter. Whether you've got sandy soil, whether you've got clay, the best thing you can do is to add organic matter to your soil. And if you got clay and you want to break up the clay, the best thing to use is expanded shale. That is really good to break up the clay. And I think you can get that at Hughes and Harris, some of those garden centers. If you've got stuff out in the ground right now, like cool season vegetables, it's a good time to fertilize them. You also add mulch to both your new and existing beds. This is another thing. Mulch, 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 mulch. It's so good for your soil. It keeps it warm in the winter, cool in the summer, and it helps you retain moisture in your soil. And that's especially important in the summertime. And it's also a good time if you want to grow different varieties of vegetables that are hard to find in the retail trade. It's a great time to start seeds indoors. It's also if you want to grow like flowers, different varieties of flowers. Like I used to like to grow like heirloom annuals. And so I would get the seeds from a catalog and I'd start them like now. And so those are things you can do indoors. And you can also plant outdoors. This is still the perfect time to plant trees and shrubs. November, December, January, February. Those cold months are really great for big items like trees and shrubs to get their roots started and established into the ground before it gets really hot here. And this is also, if you order roses from like David Austin or Jackson and Perkins, this is the time you get them and they come bare root, and this is when you plant them. So, we can also clean up damage. Now, I thought maybe most of the tree guys had been maybe finished, but as I was driving over here, I saw maybe 4 different crews up in trees, getting branches down and taking care of the stuff that had been damaged from the storm the other week. It's also a great time to prune trees and shrubs as long as they do not bloom in the spring. So don't prune azaleas, don't prune if you got old-fashioned hydrangeas, don't prune them. Daphnes, Widula, Viburnum, don't prune those until after they bloom. Because if you prune them now, you're cutting off the flowers. Again, don't cut your perennials back until mid-March. Then you can go out and cut all those ugly stems off and let the new growth start. Check for winter pests. There's bagworms out there. If you can get the bags off the trees, that's like a really good thing. If you have camellias, check for scale. And if you have scale, treat it with horticultural oil. And take care of winter weeds. Somebody the other day said, my yard is just full of dollarweed. What am I going to do? And I was like, well, it's all going to die when it gets hot. But right now, the only thing you can do is either like put down a herbicide or physically get there and like dig it out of the ground. What you should have done is put down a pre-emergent at the beginning of September. And that takes care of your winter weeds. They don't, because then that keeps the seeds from germinating. And at the beginning of March, you should be putting down pre-emergent for your summer weeds. If you listen to Neil Sperry at all, he always, the first 2 weeks of March, is always like, well, it's time to put down pre-emergent. Okay. Also, clean up your containers. You know I've been guilty of this, like, well, when was the last time I put new soil in these containers? I don't know. Old soil becomes depleted and it becomes compacted and it doesn't drain well, so just get rid of it. And if you've been growing vegetables in containers, like tomatoes or peppers that are really heavy feeders, that really depletes the soil every year, and you really need fresh soil for any of those vegetables in the nightshade family, which is tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant, because those are the kind of vegetables that you should plant them in different spots in your garden every year, sort of like crop rotation. But if you're doing them in plants, for sure you need new potting soil. So just get rid of the potting soil. I used to just throw it on the compost pile. And then using a stiff brush, wash them with a diluted bleach solution, which is a teaspoon of bleach per gallon of water. And just scrub the insides of the container out and the outsides. And this is especially good if you've got terracotta plants. And then put in new potting soil and a new slow release fertilizer. And you will be ready to go, and your new plants will be very, very happy when you plant the containers. And then don't forget your tools. A couple of 3 weeks ago, we had one of the master gardeners did a garden article about this. I think it was either in the Tyler paper or the Lindale paper, I can't remember which. And I posted it to Facebook, and this post has been seen 800,000 times. There were many lively discussions about what kind of oil should you use? Should you use oil? Was this really the good thing to do? And blah, 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 blah. But a bucket of sand, some people on Facebook were saying they used their used motor oil, which I'm not sure I would do that. But something like WD-40 doesn't cost that much. Put in the sand, get your caked, if there's like caked dirt or whatever, off your tools, just up and down into the sand, wipe off the excess sand and oil, and they'll be good to go. If you have unpainted wood handles on tools, and not just hand tools, but your rakes, your hose, all that kind of stuff, treating them with like linseed oil or tung oil really helps keep the wood in good condition, and it won't crack and get splintery on you. So if you take care of your tools, they're going to last a long, long time. And if you have good clippers, a cause for divorce is if your husband cuts wire with your thumb. then he is really in trouble. But really take care of your tools. And if you do all these things, you're going to be ready to enjoy your garden in the spring. And one last thing, useful information that I like to share with everybody. Aggie Horticulture, and that's the website. And I think if you just put Aggie Horticulture in Google, it will come up. That is the most useful website for Texas gardening. They have answers for everything. You want to know about trees, you want to know about shrubs, fruits, vegetables, annuals, perennials, insects, diseases. It's all there on Aggie Horticulture. Our own Smith County website, we have a sort of like archive of some of the articles that have been in the papers on there, along with an archive of all our Channel 19 spots since we started this summer. And also you're going to be able to find out about all these our lectures, our workshops, our garden tour, which is back this year, and also the bulk sale. So it's really good to find all this kind of information on what's coming up. Our Facebook page, like I said, we have a very lively conversations on our Facebook page. We have about 12,000 followers on our Facebook page right now. And so I like to post things that are going on not only in Smith County, but I like post on things that are going on from Dallas to Shreveport, down to Palestine, Lufkin area, and especially the stuff that goes on in NAC, like all their plant sales. I always post about that. But you can find and see what's going on. We also post things to do, useful gardening information. During like the snowpocalypse, we posted a lot of things about like what's going on with the trees. So it's a useful place to come and get information. We also have a help desk, and we man that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you have a question, you can call us. Also, you can email smithmghelpdesk@gmail.com. And if you send us your question along with really good pictures, high-resolution pictures, we will try and get your question answered. And lastly, if you're at home, like at noon, with nothing better to do, you're eating your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and turn on Channel 19 on Thursday, because we have a Smith County gardening segment at 12:15 every Thursday. It's called Master Your Garden. And we've talked about birds, we've talked about growing onions, every month we do here's what you need to do this month. And I think next week we're going to be doing how to prune roses. So tune in on that, and with that, I'm done, and I'll take any questions you got.